Hey everybody, it's Jason Creel and you're watching The Lawn Care Life. You know, one of the most frustrating things that I've seen happen is when you spray a weed, you spray a yard, and the weeds just don't die. Or maybe some of them die, but they don't all die. And I feel like homeowners share that with me. They'll hire me as a weed control professional, and then what they'll say is, hey, I tried it last year on my own, but it just didn't work. And I'm happy to have the business, but sometimes I want to correct them and just say, help them understand why it didn't work. So in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons when you spray your yard, why a weed did not die. What went wrong? I'm going to give you 5 possibilities. Let's do that right now. Okay, so I'm looking at this yard. It's early March and it's, mostly dormant. And you say, Jason, I don't see a weed in the yard. Well, you're not looking good enough because I can see them. And it makes me wonder why when I spray a yard and it looks, pretty much great. It's what a dormant Bermuda yard's supposed to look like. Now we obviously prefer green. It'll turn green soon. But let's just look and show you some weeds and help you understand why they didn't die. So first reason that a weed might not die when you spray it, and I'm going to show you some wild onions or wild garlic, probably wild garlic if I had to guess, but I'm not sure. Sometimes the weeds don't die because you use the wrong product, okay? I think sometimes homeowners get to the big box store, they grab something that says weed and feed, they spray it on their yard and they think, that's it. Yeah, it said, I saw a commercial on TV or it showed a picture of a dead weed on the box, and that should be all I need, weed and feed. And it's just not realistic, even for us lawn care professionals. I think sometimes people think, what's the one product I can use that's gonna kill all my weeds? Well, there's not one, okay? It's not gonna kill all your weeds. So when I spray this yard, I'm like, yeah, it pretty much got rid of all the weeds, but guess what? There's more onions, more garlic. So why is that? Well, because the products I used on this lawn, use a 3-way product, use a pre-emergent and another post-emergent. None of those are going to take care of the wild onions. Now, are wild onions impossible to kill, or wild garlic? No, they're not. I mean, you can control them, but they're difficult and they're slow to die sometimes. Now, this is the other one that I see a lot of times that's really tough to kill. This is called Star of Bethlehem. But anyway, you have to use specialty products oftentimes for these, like onions. The products I normally use to blanket a yard, just not going to control the onions, so you'd have to put like metsulfuron or I-spot treat them with blindside. Star of Bethlehem, sometimes those products may help. I like a product called Katana that I use on blindside. All right, second reason that a weed might not die, and I get this one sometimes from customers. I'll go to a yard, and I'm trying to work on my communication, but I'll go to the yard. The yard is totally full of weeds. I spray it, and I get a call about 5 days later, and they're saying, hey, I'm not sure it's working. I've still got weeds all in my yard. And it might be February. The weather's about 50 degrees. And I have to really think how to improve as a business owner, how to communicate with this, maybe communicate on the front end. But you have to, the second reason I want to mention here is you're not waiting long enough. I mean, when it's cold weather, these products are going to be slower to work. Now, if you wait 2 weeks, when the weather's up in the 70s or 80s, you're going to see a lot of results often if you've done the right application. But in certain situations when the weather's cold, and I often tell people too, it's not a magic trick. It's not you spray it and the weeds magically disappeared. They die, they curl up, they discolor, and then when you mow them with a lawnmower, they don't grow back. That's what we're going for. It's not like, voila, now you see it, now you don't, and they just disappeared magically. It's just not realistic. So sometimes you just got to be more patient. You might have used the right product, but you're not patient enough and you expected an overnight miracle. Third reason your weeds might not be dying is because you did it at the wrong time. Now, I see this oftentimes where people will put out, it'll say a pre-emergent, stop crabgrass now. And they're running the ads on TV and during the Masters golf tournament in March or April, whenever that is, and I'm thinking, oh man, I wish they would have ran that ad in February, in my area. I'm in Alabama, and so oftentimes people go put a pre-emergent on their lawn, and they do it in March or April, and guess what? The crabgrass is already germinated, and they're basically too late to prevent a lot of the weeds that it would have controlled. So there's timing is very important. Same thing with your your fall pre-emergent. Let me show you a weed and explain what I'm talking about. You observe here, you've got some Poa annua. You see basically the little green weed there. I mean, there's more there. That's not Bermuda grass turning green, that's Poa, P-O-A. And the Poa germinates in the fall, and we try to prevent it best we can. You know, when I say pre-emergent prevents weeds, I mean it basically kills it right after it germinates so that you don't really see it in the lawn. Well, if you put your fall pre-emergent out before the Poa germinates, you have a better chance of controlling it. If you wait till you've already had several cool nights in the fall, then you may have missed it. And you put your pre-emergent out and you end up with a yard full of Poa the following spring. So same thing in the warm season months. If you, let's say you wait till March and you put your pre-emergent out. Again, I'm basing it on the time frames I deal with. It's going to be different for different people depending on where you live. But you put the crabgrass preventer, the prodiamine, the dimension, whatever you're using, and you're too late with it, then it's going to greatly affect your results. The fourth reason that you may still have weeds is, you might not like this one, but I'm going to go ahead and break it to you anyway. It might not be a solution for your problem. I had a yard several years ago, and went in the backyard. The customer called me and they said, hey, I've got a yard full of crabgrass, or I forget exactly how they worded it. Well, I go look at the yard and I send it to somebody, get a second opinion, and it comes back, it was a weed that I was not familiar with at the time, but I am now, and it's torpedo grass. Now, some of you may be familiar with torpedo grass, but unfortunately, it was explained to me that, hey, there's really not a whole lot you can do for torpedo grass. So we tried, you know, we put quinclorac on it 3 different times. According to the label, it turned a little bit brown, but guess what? It's been there ever since. But I tell you what, the customer did appreciate me trying and stuck with me for several years and basically just lived with the torpedo grass, and we tried to make the yard look as good as possible. And thankfully, it was just in the backyard and not in the front yard. But there are situations like that where they're simply not a good option for the weeds that you have. And torpedo grass is one of them. There's tough weeds. They're not all impossible to kill. I mean, there's some that are like I talk about, Dallas grass, stuff like that. I mean, it's not impossible to get rid of, but it is tough to get rid of. And sometimes people think, hey, I put out my pre-emergent and I still got nut sedge in my yard. And I try to explain to them, I was like, listen, you're probably gonna have nut sedge, you know, and we're gonna work on your nut sedge. We're gonna try to control your nut sedge, but don't be shocked if next year you have nut sedge again and the year after that you have nut sedge again. So, you know, there's some things you can do. You can stop watering your grass so much. You can fix your drainage issues, but you know, nut sedge is part of it. So anyway, just getting the point across that sometimes you got weeds in the yard because there's just really not a great solution for that particular weed. And if you're in the comments, I'd love to hear of some weeds that you deal with that you really don't have a solution for. And the fifth thing I want to mention in this video is that maybe you sprayed and the reason it didn't work is because you mixed it incorrectly, and in this situation mixed it too weak. So if you mix it too strong, okay, that's problems. You didn't just kill the weed, you might have damaged the turf, and that's not good. But if you mixed it too weak, you don't understand calibration, you don't understand how to mix, or you just don't read labels, or whatever the problem is, then you may spray it and nothing happened, or it's very, you know, it just didn't get the results you had hoped for. So make sure you're reading the labels, following the labels, understanding how to calibrate your sprayer and mix things so that you can get good results. But you know, the right product at the right time on the right grass type to control those certain types of weeds does get results. I mean, there's a lot of science that goes into this and it does work, but it's not one product that kills everything. It's not one product that's just, you know, for this certain kind of grass, that's all you need, it's all you'll ever need. There's some great products out there, but there's a lot of weeds, and it's a little bit of a challenging game, and that's, you know, part of the reason we enjoy doing what we do. If you're in the weed control business, thinking about getting into it, or in the mowing business, the lawn business period, I've got a lot of resources over there at lawncarelife.com. You can go check those out. And if you just want to watch videos, there's over 500 on the channel. You can subscribe, you can click the notification bell. You can give this one a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and go check out the other videos on the channel. Appreciate you watching. Leave a comment below, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.